So today I'm going to talk to you about a very particular field of view. It's not a focal length, it's a field of view as such. And that's the field of view you get with a 40mm lens on a full frame camera. So everybody says like 50mm lenses are a standard, but that's not quite correct. When Oscar Barnack was creating his first camera, he needed a lens, his first 35mm camera. And the only lenses available to him were lenses from microscopes. So the lens that he put on the front of the camera was a 42mm lens. Then when they engineered the Elmar, I think that came next, that because of design tolerances, they built it as a 50, and it was a bit, I think it was a stop quicker. I think it was 3.5. That was their first constructed lens. So even Oscar Barnack chose this weird, strange, odd focal length for the first lens. So what is it? I mean, so what is the thing about 40? Now, there are some strange connections here. The diagonal across the back of a piece of 35mm full frame film is about 43mm. And also there's a really sort of strange thing with the human eye. When you look at something, you've got an in-focus area in the middle that you see, and everything's the right size. And then around the edge, everything's sort of peripheral and softer. That circle has been sort of measured as a circle of the field of view that will give you 40mm. I can't remember the exact angle. So it becomes really interesting. It becomes such an interesting focal length on a full frame camera, because when you take a photograph at about the 40-ish mark, you really get a true representation of reality. There's no distortion as such, there's no extra edges. And this has sort of been used through the years. You see manufacturers have used 40mm, 42, 45, around there, because when they want to, some certain cameras weren't designed for sort of artistic purposes. They were designed for you to just take a picture of the moment and remember that moment. So you can find out, I mean, so a lot of the Olympus cameras had 40mm, 42mm lenses on them. Lots of the, sort of what I'm saying is the early point and shoots, the early sort of snap cameras that were put out. So this is the Olympus 35 SP, and this has a 42mm lens on it. Then I've got another one over here, massively popular Yashica Electro, and that has a 45mm lens on it. And you can have a look around. You look at these sort of like, fixed lens cameras from all the way through history. They've got they sort of hang around. I believe the Olympus Trip's got a 40 on it. They hang around that 40mm zone. Obviously, this helps it as well when you sort of like, because you're not looking through the lens on a lot of these cameras, you're looking through a viewfinder. It's easier to map out reality as such and put frame lines around it in a glass viewfinder on one of those cameras. So 40mm is a really fascinating sort of length. And what happened was, obviously, in the cinema world, 40mm was used quite a lot, but when you put 40mm on a Super 35 camera for film, it becomes a different focal length. It becomes like 60mm. So on that, you sort of work backwards, and all of a sudden you get this other relationship with a lens that we see an awful lot of, especially in cinematography, is a 28. Because if you put a 28 on a Super 35 camera, it's about 40. So you see 28mm are used an enormous amount in cinematography. With the actual 40mm though, I believe there was a really famous cinematographer who shot The Godfather mainly on 40mm, and I think Chinatown was done on 40mm. Gordon Ellis. Anyway, and I think recently 1917 was shot on 40, but that was done in an interesting way because that was shot on ARRI large format, which is like a large format camera, and obviously that has like the reverse crop. So an ARRI large format, an ARRI 65, has a sort of reverse crop of 0.69. So that makes shooting a 40 on or medium format, as it were, a 28. So you can see there's this really interesting link between the two. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a couple of photos I took. I've got a variety of lenses and stuff. I'm going to look through a couple and we'll just sort of see what, you can see the sort of difference. So this first one is a shot of a load of Pokemon on the table. This is bang on a 43mm shot on a Pentax K1 camera. And fundamentally, you can see this is literally what I was looking at. When I lift my head up, excluding viewfinder magnification, literally that's what it looked like to me. Okay, so this is what it looks like if you shoot it on a 50. And that's not quite right, is it? That's sort of a bit closer. It's not really reality in many ways. And then if you look at it on a 35, same shot, much wider, much more. I didn't see that as such. I'm looking at the bit in the middle. And then what I did, just to sort of prove the point, I put a 28mm on the Pentax K1 and put it into a crop mode, which makes it go to 40mm. So this is the shot that I took there. So there you go. You can sort of see that 40 is a really interesting focal length to use. It sort of gives you reality. It gives you, if you want to see what's out there, you want to record the exact moment, because obviously with like these earlier rangefinders, the sort of point and shoots like the rather fabulous Olympus 75 SP, the whole point of these cameras was record moments, and so you could remember those moments and take them back with you. Now, one manufacturer in particular took this to heart, and they realised the value of that 43mm length, and it's Pentax. And as far as I know, I think there's another one now. There's a cinema manufacturer who's made a 43, but Pentax made a 43mm lens, which is exactly that focal length. And that's why I could shoot that just now on a 43. It's a stellar lens. It's one of my most used lenses of all time. And it's one of the reasons I've actually stuck with, I've got a lot of Pentax so I could shoot that lens. There is one other version of it. They made it in the LMT, L mount for Leica, because the Leica guys really, really wanted to have that 43mm focal length. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. It's sort of like, it's a pancake. Normally the 40s are pancakes. You see a lot of them as pancakes. Another lens, which is really, really nice, and it's super cheap. If I've got it, I will just grab it. And very accessible lens, modern lens, is the Canon 40mm STM lens, which is this on the front of here. It's a tiny pancake, but it's absolutely phenomenal. So if you put, obviously on a full frame sensor, that gives you, the 40mm point of view. It's autofocus. It's such a tiny little thing. It's really great. They've actually, one of the companies that work, I think Global Dynamics, they're called. They're sort of part of the Red cameras. They strip these down, rehouse them for cinema, because obviously 40 is a brilliant lens. Though, obviously you put it on a Super 35 sensor, you've got that 60, that really nice sort of 60-ish look. But obviously in a full frame red with an EF mount, then you've got that 40. So yeah, there's some out there, but it is an interesting thing. It's one of those, I was never ever comfortable shooting on 50mm. I don't know what it is. When I've got some, but I never felt I was quite getting what I want to capture. So the two focal lenses that I really like are the 40s, and then obviously the name of this channel is 28 all day, because fundamentally I always end up shooting on a 28mm lens. I don't know what it is. It sort of captures the reality of a moment that I want to capture. So there you go. I highly advise, if you've got any of the cameras, the contacts, things like that, you can seek out their 40. Nikon did a nice 40. Obviously Canon's got that 40. That works. That stepper lens works on all the old Canon autofocus as well, so that's great. Nikon did a 45. I think you get it. Pentax did a really tiny pancake, which is 40mm, which is even smaller than that one there. They're everywhere. I think Konica, they've got a 40, but it's such a great focal length. It's really, if you want to remember the moment exactly as you saw it, from where you were stood, that is the lens to capture on. Anyway, I hope that's been of some use to you. Thanks for watching.